Bam.
My people, my papers. George Kambosos versus Richardson Hitchins. That's going down on Saturday. It's gonna be a good fight. It's gonna be a good fight. Both fighters got something to prove, and you know, highly.
Y'all already know what it is, my people.
I'm just
This is Box Center, your favorite boxer's favorite boxing show.
talk about it, man. Let's talk about it. Um, so I think it is gonna be a very competitive fight.
And just interesting to see the way that these two styles are gonna collide. George Kambosos is a fighter who, likes to apply pressure, likes to, throw a lot of punches, likes to trade. And Richardson Hitchins is someone who, can use the footwork, can box you, but he can also stand there and trade. I think that is obviously in Kambosos' best interest to make it, one of those type of fights, a slugfest, because I don't think that he can beat Richardson Hitchins in a boxing match. So we have to see how is Hitchins going to react to Kambosos' pressure. Is he gonna rely on counter punching or is he gonna apply his own pressure? We're gonna see. But Hitchens is a fighter that he's versatile. He can fight you in a football field or inside of a phone booth. So, I think Richardson Hitchens is gonna win this fight, but I don't know if he's gonna make it look easy. And he said he's gonna stop Cambosos. He said that he gonna knock him out. We'll find out. We'll find out, my peoples. We definitely will. I'm looking forward to this fight. By the way, Andy Cruz is fighting on the undercard. So, want to check him out. His opponent is somebody that I don't know, but let's see. Let's see. Obviously, a guy of that kind of talent, you expect him to win versus an unknown opponent. Upsets do happen in boxing, but we're not expecting it. We're not expecting Andy Cruz to lose this fight. What I will tell you, when it comes to Cambosos and Hitchens, it's gonna be an interesting contest. It's gonna be competitive.
Will Richardson Hitchins be able to knock George Kambosos out? Y'all tell me. Or does anybody actually believe that George Kambosos can pull off the upset? There you have it. Is there anyone? I really haven't seen anyone say that. It's almost like it's unanimous. Everyone is expecting Richardson Hitchins to win. But I remind you guys, that was also the case when Teofimo Lopez faced Campos. Everybody was expecting him to win, and he pulled off the upset. So George Campos has already showed us that he can pull off an upset, that he can win. He can show up as the underdog and win. Can he do it again? Because I will tell you, my people, there's a chip on Campos' shoulder.
This win, and I'll tell you why. If you think about it, right now Cambosos is one of these fighters who became a world champion and immediately lost his belt after that and never gained it back. So is he a one hit wonder? He won that fight over Teofimo Lopez. Is that it?
Will he ever become a champion again, or is that it? He's going to keep losing to the top level guys. We'll find out. But, obviously he fell short to Devin Haney twice in a row. Devin Haney is a special fighter. And he lost to Lomachenko. Lomachenko's a special fighter. These are two guys that are headed to the Hall of Fame that beat George Kambosos. Gotta take that into consideration. You're not losing to the average Joe. But Richardson Hitchins is also a special fighter. And right now he's an undefeated reigning world champion. Can George Kambosos do what he did versus Teofimo Lopez and pull off the upset?
Aliki, hi. Yo, what's the deal, my brother? So I think that, for George Kambosos, it's an uphill battle, but that was also the case when he faced Teofimo. And he did what he did. So can he do it again? We're gonna find out. But it's like I said, right now Kambosos has that chip on his shoulder. Damn, won a title, lost it right away, never been a champion again. And I know that he wants to be a champion again, having already held the title. Or did he have multiple titles with Devin Haney? Yeah, he had multiple titles as a matter of fact, because Teofimo had. He took all of Teofimo's shit. So I know that he wants to be a champion once again. Let's see. Now, if he loses, if George Kambosos loses to Richardson Hitchins, right? Will he get another title shot, or is this it for George Kambosos? Like, if he loses, will we now see him be kind of like a gatekeeper, fighting the guys coming up, or fighting in smaller venues, or what goes down with George Kambosos, as far as getting another title shot? Should he lose now? We'll see. But Richardson Hitchens now also has that pressure to perform. You know, this is right now, this, if you think about it, for him, this is his biggest fight. This is his biggest opponent, the biggest name that he ever faced. So for Richardson Hitchens, it's like, okay, you got to perform. You got to look good. And he's also had a couple of performances where he didn't look really good. Where it was a dog fight and it was very close. Even people say, yo, he got gifted the win. So when you win like that, you want to come back and dominate and show, nah, I am him. I'm that dude. So I believe he said himself he's gonna knock Kambosos out. But I believe Richardson Hitchens is gonna go out not just trying to get the W, but look spectacular in doing it. That's the way that I see it playing out. Richardson Hitchens, looking spectacular. Now, does he knock out George Kambosos? I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna knock him out. Cause Cam could take a shot. He could take a shot. So is it gonna be a knockout? Is it gonna go the distance? I don't know. But I got Richardson Hitchens winning this fight. Hands down. Hands down. I feel pretty confident in that pick. And now, my peoples, going forward, right? We have Shakur Stevenson, who's gonna be fighting William Zepeda, and we also have Tank Davis, who's gonna be fighting Lamont Roach. They're not gonna be fighting on the same day, obviously, but they're gonna fight close to each other. So let's say Shakur Stevenson is going to win that fight. He's going to beat William Zepeda. So let's say Tank is able to beat Lamont Roach. Should they at least try to make Shakur versus Tank? Should somebody in Tank's team reach out to Shakur like, yo, what's up? Let's make it. Or vice versa. Somebody from Shakur team, Jay Prince or somebody, yo, what's up? Let's make this happen. So I think that the timing is going to be good should they decide that they want to fight each other to make it happen for this year. Tank Davis versus Shakur Stevenson. Been the fight to make. That's been the fight to make. But I digress. They're going to fight.
Someone else next. But if they win, should.
At least try to negotiate and see if they can make it feasible for both sides. But we know that Tank doesn't want to fight Shakur. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they could offer him so much money that he can't turn it down. He's like, okay, I'll fight him for that much money. Because I'm telling you, my peoples, look, after Terrence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez, Tank Davis versus Shakur Stevenson is the fight to make. Absolutely, my peoples. And by the way, yo, hit that like button, man. Y'all being cheap as hell with me with that like button. 10 people, 0 likes? Y'all don't gotta do me like this, man. Like I'm a C-level fighter getting pummeled out here. But like I was saying, look, Shakur Stevenson versus Tank Davis, I think that's the biggest fight in boxing after Terrence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez. I think Bud versus Canelo is without a doubt the biggest fight in boxing, simply because number one is for undisputed. Number two pound for pound fighters. Number three, you're talking about the USA versus Mexico. Number four, both fighters are considered amongst the best of this era. So that's the biggest fight in boxing. White talk, are you black? Well, I'm Dominican, so yes, I am black, my brother. So that's how I see it, man. Canelo versus Bud is the biggest fight in boxing. But right after that, Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson. That's the biggest fight in boxing. Right after. We need it. We need it. We want it. We gotta have it. Tank versus Shakur. Make it happen. Now, I'm only saying that because obviously that's the fight that I want to see. And I know a lot of people want to see that fight. But it's a situation where you're like, wish, hope for the best, but expect the worst. Because there's already rumors swirling around that Tank Davis is going to fight Jake Paul at the end of the year. Should he beat Lamont Roach? I'm assuming. Because supposedly, and Jake Paul said it himself, if Tank Davis would have beat Lamont Roach in their first fight, Tank Davis and Jake Paul would have been fighting next. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Tank got his ass whooped. Lamont Roach put the Dre, the Apple, and the Swiss beats on Tank. And there you have it. So that messed up the plans for the Tank Davis versus Jake Paul. So the plans right now, supposedly, I don't know that for a fact, is that Tank Davis is going to beat Lamont Roach in the rematch, and he's going to fight Jake Paul at the end of the year. Those are supposedly the plans. Viz, Usyk versus Fury was the biggest. Usyk versus Fury, that was a big fight. That's not bigger than Bud versus Canelo. I don't see it as bigger. That was a big fight. Was a big fight for sure. But I don't see it as Bud versus Canelo. I honestly, I don't. Huge, because that's the one thing. Sometimes when we say this one is the biggest, it's almost like it. I like people take it like you're diminishing the others, and it's not that. I agree with you 100%. Usyk versus Fury was a huge fight. Was it the biggest? I don't think so. I don't think so. And I believe the numbers are going to show that. Terrence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez is going to be a bigger fight. Wait and see. There's a lot of elements on there for it to be a bigger fight. But you'll see when it happens. You'll see when it happens, my brother. Because I've had people tell me that this fight wasn't gonna do big numbers. And I think the people that say this fight isn't gonna do big numbers are the ones who don't like Canelo or they don't like Crawford and they don't want the fight to do good. But the numbers are gonna show it, bro. And by the way, it's gonna be on Netflix. Crawford versus Canelo is gonna be on Netflix. That's global. People got Netflix all over the world. Like it's gonna be easy for anybody to buy that fight. They haven't said what the price is, so let's see. But buying the fight will not be a problem. Anybody's gonna be able to buy it. Boom. That's a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful thing. This is bigger than Tank versus Shakur. Right now, Canelo versus Bud is bigger than Tank versus Shakur, of course. Of course. Because Canelo and Crawford are more advanced in their career and they're more accomplished than Tank and Shakur. So this is a bigger fight, yes. But I think after Crawford and Canelo, Shakur versus Tank is the biggest fight. Right after that. That's a huge, a mega fight. And I really want to see it, man. I've been asking for it, I've been calling for a couple of years. I know that Tank don't want to make that fight. But I don't know, man. I guess I hope Tank fights Shakur before retiring, but it looks like he's right there. He's talked about it himself. Supposedly he's planning that fight with Jake Paul. So it looks like Tank mentally is almost checked out of boxing, bro. It looks like he might be done. Like I'm gonna get these fights in and I'm out of here. He might be in that stage, and if he is, that's it. We might not get that fight. We might not get Tank versus, Devin versus Tio versus Shakur. We might not get any of those fights. And that would be so disappointing. Tank is seen by some people as the face of boxing. Tank is such a popular fighter, and he's such a good fighter, such an elite level fighter. And damn, yo, for him to retire and not face any of the best, that shit would be crazy. Crazy. Tank made all this money in boxing, and he could make even more money. He could still make career paydays by fighting these guys. And he's going to retire without fighting them. Now, I will say, if he fights Jake Paul, he's going to make a lot of money, obviously. So I get that. It's like, well, instead of fighting somebody like Shakur or somebody like Tio, fuck it, I'll fight Jake Paul, make a shitload of money, and not risk myself like that. But, damn. Tank made a lot of money, but he could still make a lot more by facing these guys. So from the business side of things, it makes sense. But I don't know, man. I guess he don't want to risk it, or his team don't want to risk it. Like, yo, we not trying to take a L. Let's retire undefeated too. But one thing is retiring undefeated like Floyd Mayweather, who fought so many champions, as opposed to retiring undefeated like Tank Davis if he retires now and doesn't fight any of the big dogs. I don't think people want to see that. Honestly. I don't think people want to see Tank retire, with the resume that he has right now. Tank has a good resume. It's not a bad resume. It's not a trash resume or nothing like that. It's a good resume. But is it Hall of Fame worthy? Does Tank Davis have a Hall of Fame worthy resume? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say he does not. And the reason I say he does not is because of the lack of reigning champions in his resume. Tank Davis hasn't beat very many reigning champions. That's why I don't like it when they show that stat, or when people talk about that stat. Oh, he beat this many champions and beat that many champions. And that stat always sucks. You know why? Because that stat can include former champions that are washed up. Or it can include people who wasn't even a champion when you fought them, but they became a champion after. Oh, yeah, he wasn't even a champion when you fought him. What do you... So, it's not about world champions beating. The real stat, my peoples, it's about reigning world champion beating. How many champions did you take their belt from them? See, once you snatch a title from them, now you beat a champion. But this guy was a champion 5 years ago, and you beat him now, and you put that number right in there. That's another one of the champions that you beat. So, no. Look, beating a reigning champion and beating a former champion is not the same thing. So that's why I don't like that stat about champions beating. That's bull. Tank Davis, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not, beat one reigning champion in his entire career. And that was Pedraza. Pedraza was a reigning champion when Tank Davis beat him. That's the only reigning champion that he beat in his entire career. Pedraza. And how many years ago he fought Pedraza? 6, 7 years ago? Some shit like that. That was a long time ago. Matter of fact, Tank is 30 years old. He fought Pedraza like 8 years ago. That is the only reigning champion that Tank Davis has faced in his entire career. Teofimo Lopez was a champion in the same division at 135 as Tank. Devin Haney was a reigning champion at 135. Shakur Stevenson is right now a reigning champion at 135. Richardson Hitchins is a reigning champion. Oh no, that's at 140. I'm wilding out. So you have these world champions with a name in and around your division, and you just won't fight them. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Then, you bring Lamont Roach from the 130 division. Lamont Roach, my peoples, I gotta call it what it is, man. He's a cherry pick gone wrong. That's what Lamont Roach is. Cherry pick gone wrong. Brought him up from the 130 division. Thought they was gonna knock him out. And it didn't play out that way. So he became the latest cherry pick gone wrong. And, this rematch is going to be very interesting. I got to tell you, this rematch is going to be very interesting, my peoples. Because now we see that Lamont has the skills to outbox Tank. Now, can he do it for 12 rounds? We'll see. But he didn't go the distance with Tank Davis on survival mode. He went the distance, on offensive mode 24/7. 12 rounds of action. Going forward. Letting his hands go. Kano Crush, those Kambosos have a good chance. To be honest, my brother, Kano Crush, I don't think so. Look, Kambosos can fight. He can fight. And we know in boxing, anything can happen. But the odds are stacked against Kambosos. Richardson Hitchins, he has a style. Kambosos is tailor-made for him. This could even play out like Devin Haney versus Kambosos, where Kambosos was outboxed, outclassed. This fight could play out the same way. Richardson Hitchins is that good. So, to me, the way I see it, and it's going to play out that way, I promise you. You're gonna see George Kambosos applying that pressure. You're gonna see it. Now, I believe he could make it interesting in the early rounds while Richardson Hitchins is trying to time him, trying to figure him out. But once Hitchins gets in his rhythm, it's a wrap. He's gonna start teeing off on him, outboxing him, and he's gonna win that fight. Kano Crush. These could lead up to Tio versus Kambosos Part 2. Listen, Teofimo versus Kambosos is a rematch that should have happened. The only reason it could not is because Teofimo obviously was not able to stay at 135. He couldn't make weight anymore. But that's a fight that is still interesting. Very interesting. Now, I believe Teofimo will take care of him because Kambosos was actually offered the fight at 140 and he didn't take it. He was like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. So he know. He don't want that smoke. But I do believe Kambosos may end up in the ring with Teofimo if he's offered that fight because he don't have too many opportunities left, for title shots. You got to remember, he got he fought Devin Haney, obviously, twice. But he got a title shot versus Devin. Because after he lost, he had to get one. Then he got a title shot versus Lomachenko. He lost that fight. And now he's getting a title shot versus Richardson Hitchins. So if he loses, I don't think he's going to have too many avenues left. So if an opportunity comes from Teofimo Lopez, I know he's going to take it. Because that could be his last. That could be like his last big payday like that and at the big stage and all that. So let's see. I'd like to see that rematch though. I would like to see it. But right now, we got to see where Teofimo Lopez is headed. Because if you recall, first Boots turned him down for a fight. Then he pulled out of the negotiations with Devin Haney. So now we know Teofimo and Devin are not going to fight. Teofimo did post a picture with him wearing a PBC hat. Is he signing with PBC? Or did he sign with PBC and there's going to be an announcement maybe? I don't know. But it will be interesting to see because that would open up the possibility to a fight with Tank Davis and a fight with Gary Antoine Russell. I would love to see Teofimo Lopez fight either one of those two guys, especially Tank Davis. But Teofimo, Gary Antoine, I'll take that any day of the week. Because I tell you, Gary Antoine Russell, he's spectacular. If you match him up, his style, with Teofimo, you're getting an explosive fight filled with fireworks. I'm interested in seeing, what's next for Gary Antoine Russell. The thing is that he's with PBC, and they're not gonna put him to fight Tank Davis. That's for sure. Tank Davis ain't gonna fight him. It's not gonna happen. So what options are there really for Gary Antoine Russell? Who does he fight next? I think he's gonna have to go. They're gonna have to do, whether it's cross promotion or him fight at an event promoted by another one of the guys, whatever the case may be. But I don't know what opponents are out there for Gary Antoine Russell that are signed to PBC. But if Teofimo Lopez signs with them, there you have it. You got a great fight right there. So let's see. Let's see, my people, what direction Teofimo Lopez is headed in. And then we have to look at Devin Haney. I remember at some point Bill did say that he was interested in making Devin versus Boots. That they was interested in Boots. Now, would I like to see Devin Haney versus Jerron Boots Ennis? Hell yeah. Of course I would like to see it. Of course I would like to see it. Now, how long is Boots gonna stay at the welterweight division for? I don't know. I don't think he's gonna stay there for too long, to be honest. I know that he wants to try to unify titles with Brian Norman Jr. I know that Manny Pacquiao and Mario Barrios are gonna fight. So we'll see. Can Manny Pacquiao pull off the upset? Is Barrios gonna win? And then the winner can Boots get a fight with one of them. Kano Crush. Boots is moving up to 154. Yeah, but you can see that they haven't announced that move yet. So I believe that before moving up, before making that decision, they're going to wait for Brian Norman Jr., who's fighting this month. If he wins, which I expect him to, Team Boots is going to reach out and try to make the fight with Brian Norman Jr. And that's been a matter of money. That's the reason why that fight wasn't made. So maybe that now they put a little bit more on top and make it happen. Maker, Feliz Viernes. Good morning, brother. Good morning, my G. Appreciate you dropping in. So that's how I think that it plays out with Jerron Boots Ennis. You know, there's multiple fights out there that he could be in. You know, we're talking about Conor Benn, Blair the Flair Cobb. Teofimo Lopez said that that fight is still possible, just not with Turkey. So it looks like Boots and Teofimo, they don't want to do business with Turkey. They didn't like the terms and conditions that they saw. Because look what Boots said when Teofimo pulled out of the fight with Devin. He said, oh, so I got to sell my soul and he doesn't? Like, oh, y'all went hard on me for not making the fight. Y'all ain't going hard on him? What did he mean by sell his soul? And you can see publicly already Teofimo has spoke out about His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh. And he apologized. Well, he didn't really apologize. I think he even said, we don't apologize over here, but blah, blah, blah. Moving on. Iris, what's up, brother? What's the deal, my G? So I think Teofimo Lopez and Jerron Boots Ennis, it's a fight that didn't happen because Boots didn't want to do business with His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, or he didn't like something about the way that they making it happen. And now Teofimo Lopez, look what Teofimo said, by the way. The reason he decided not to fight is because he signed a contract for 3 fights guaranteeing him that he was going to make X amount of money per fight. For his first fight, performed, won. Well, for the second fight, they offer him less than half of the money that they had already agreed to pay him. He said that they offer him way less money for that second fight with Devin than what they said he was going to make. They were like, nah, now y'all trying to jerk me. Now y'all trying to get me. Decided to pull out. Ramsreal, I'm hoping for an upset, but I'm taking Hitchins by decision. Yeah, I got the same thing. I got Richardson Hitchins beating George Kambosos by decision. Now, he's been saying that he's going to knock him out. I don't know if you've seen any of the pressers or not press conferences when they get together like for one-on-one interviews and shit like that. He's been telling him, I'm going to knock you out. So, let's see. I think this this is gonna be a fight where we're gonna see fireworks. You already know George Kambosos always brings the pressure. Kambosos, that's one thing about him. He comes to fight. And I've been telling people, Kambosos got a chip on his shoulder. Because he beat Teofimo Lopez. But then what happened after that? Lost the title immediately. Hasn't become a champion again after that. So it's like, okay, is Kambosos a one-hit wonder? Or can he win a title once again and continue to be champion? Ramsrell, Hitchins seemed really confident for real. Yo, Richardson Hitchins acting like he's ready to knock George Kambosos out. He looking like he's ready to knock him out. And I'm going to tell you something. Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda. I think people are going to be surprised about that fight. You know why? Because there's already this narrative that Shakur's going to run and that Shakur's boring and all that. And he's going to show y'all a little something with William Zepeda. For people to be like, damn, he's that boy. CEO Chris, Hitchens might lose. Whoa. So I'm going to be honest, CEO Chris, you might be the first person to say that, bro. You might be the first person to say that. Maker. Jerky allow chic. You might be the first person, CEO Chris, to say Hitchens might lose. Honestly, I think that Richardson Hitchins versus George Kambosos plays out a bit similar to Devin Haney versus George Kambosos, where he's simply outboxed. The only way that I see the fight playing out any differently in his favor is if he can push Richardson, if he can push Hitchens into a slugfest. If he can push him into that fight where we're just going to trade leather continuously, fight on the inside, if he can get him into that type of fight, then Kambosos got a chance. Ramsreel, I hate how he discredited Loma on that one interview, though, saying Loma didn't beat anyone. Loma beat Jermaine, Nicholas Walter, Gary Russell, Linares, Campbell, Comey, and should have won over Devin. Yeah, listen, Lomachenko discredited him is crazy. Lomachenko is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. As simple as that. This guy's going down as arguably the best amateur boxer in history and a Hall of Fame professional career. This guy won at all levels. So, resume, crazy. Lomachenko has a great resume. You forgot to mention that he also beat Rigondeaux. And Rigondeaux was a Cuban, no joke. CEO Chris, it depends on his work rate. I feel Hitchens don't throw enough punches. I feel you, bro, but he got that footwork and that movement. And let's see. Let's see. I believe it. He's the type of fighter, if you push him, he will let them hands go. Maker. I feel like Kambosos hasn't won a fight since Teo. Could be wrong, though. Yeah, he won a fight. His last fight, he won it. I mean, he faced a lower level opponent, a guy that we don't know. And the guy kind of gave him a tough fight. In Australia. He won. It went the distance. Dude gave him a tough fight. Young boy. But I think that's the only fight he won. Because he lost to Devin. Then he lost to Lomachenko. And I think right after that, he won in Australia. So he definitely won one fight. I'm sure about that one. But like I said, because of that, he got a chip on his shoulder. Because it's think about this. Is George Kambosos a one-hit wonder? Would you say that about him? Would you consider him a one-hit wonder, taking into account that he beat Teofimo Lopez? Meesh. Taking into account that he beat Teofimo Lopez, and after that, he hasn't been able to win another title. Y'all tell me, is George Kambosos a one-hit wonder? Um, that's why I say he got a chip on his shoulder, because, he wants to be champion again. He wants to show that he can win it. He wants to, hold that strap. And obviously, any world champion who loses their belt wants to become a champion again. Yeah, yeah. Any world champion who loses their title want to become a two-time champion or a three-time champion. But right now, George Kambosos hasn't been able to accomplish that. And he, because if you're a world champion, right, and you defend your title for multiple occasions, sometimes for years, okay, when you lose it, even if you don't get it back, you defended it a bunch of times. You beat a bunch of people who try to take it from you. That wasn't the case with Kambosos. He won these titles, and bam, just like that, had him snatched away from him by Devin Haney, and never been a champion again. Maker, I guess that's what I'm saying. One hit wonder. Let's see this weekend. We're going to see. We're going to see. This weekend, he's going to get another opportunity, because you have to understand, he got an opportunity versus Teofimo Lopez. He won. But then he got an opportunity to defend versus Devin Haney. He lost. He got a second chance versus Devin Haney. He lost. And now he also is getting a shot versus Richardson. Well, he got a shot versus Lomachenko. He lost that one. And now he's getting a shot versus Richardson Hitchins. If he loses, he's getting closer and closer to him being that one-hit wonder. Now, will he get another shot at another title versus somebody else? I don't know. But for now, he's a one-hit wonder. For right now. But I will tell you, Kambosos, there's a lot of fighters similar to Kambosos throughout boxing history that are real good fighters, but they're not as good as the best. They get to that level right below the best. So they beat everybody around them, but when they fight the top dudes, they lose. And sometimes they break through like he did versus Teofimo. If you take a fighter like Kambosos and he's on his best day, and a great fighter is not having a good day, he's going to beat him. Kambosos is the guy that he's not as good as the best of them, but they got to be on point. They got to be, on their game to make sure they beat him, because he can upset them if they not. Kano Crush. But my boy, what real resume does Richardson Hitchins really have? Maker. Hitchins talks like he's elite level, but for some reason, I don't put him up there with the top dogs. I mean, that's okay, because at the end of the day, you got to see him versus the top dogs to make a comparison, right? So it's fair. It's fair to say that you don't put him up there with the top dog. Now, Kano Crush, what I will say is that when it comes to a head-to-head matchup, the resume is not going to tell you who's going to win or lose. They could compare resume as to who faced the bigger names, and you could say, okay, Kambosos faced the bigger names, but the resume or who you face is not going to dictate who's going to win the head-to-head matchup. So we're going to see them against each other. We're going to see them fight. Because I got to tell you something. Richardson Hitchins had a couple of fights where he didn't look so good. As a matter of fact, his last couple of fights, he didn't look so good. He didn't dominate his opponents. he had been involved in a couple of dog fights where guys that he should have got out of there, and it turned into a dog fight for him. So, by the way, Kano Crush, you said what real resume does he have? I'm gonna remind you that Richardson Hitchins became a world champion by beating none other than Liam Parrow. Bro, Liam Parrow is a monster win. That's a huge win. He beat Jose Zepeda. I mean, there's some guys there that are not big stars. He beat some good boxers, some very good boxers. They not stars, but there you have it right there. He beat Liam Parrow. That's it right there. That's all you need to know, my brother. Maker, Amir Khan got a resume, but lost all of them. But I will say, Richardson Hitchins, my brother, he is an elite level fighter. And like I told you, bro, he beat Liam Parrow. If you followed or you've seen Liam Parrow, or you understand why why he was a world champion, then you know he's for real. That's a legit win. Legit win. That's it. This fight is on Saturday. This fight is on Saturday, my peoples, and I got Richardson Hitchins winning. I think Kambosos can make it a competitive fight. To me, this is my perspective. For Kambosos to win this fight, he would have to hurt Richardson Hitchins. If you hurt him, boom, with a big shot, and he don't have to stop him. Sometimes you hurt an opponent to a point where they're never able to fully recover throughout the fight. And because of that, either they become shy as far as their punch output, or they're out of their game, out of focus, and start getting hit a lot more. And that's it. The fight just goes downhill from there. So if Kambosos can hurt Richardson Hitchins to a point where he can't, fully recover and he's off his game, Kambosos can beat him. If he don't hurt him, like lands a big shot, staggers him and shit like that, he has no chance of outboxing him. George Kambosos is not going to outbox Richardson Hitchins. I'm telling you this, my people. He got no chance of winning on the cards. Maker, I got Richardson winning too. That's how I see it playing out. Always keep in mind that an upset can happen in boxing. That's what an upset is. When we all think this guy's going to win and that guy doesn't. That's what it's about. But, most fights, an upset doesn't happen. That's not what I see in this case. Richardson Hitchins, I believe he's going to use his height and reach advantages. He's going to keep that jab out there in Kambosos' face. Going to keep him at the end of that stick. Going to use his combinations. That 1-2, that long range. Bang, bang. He's going to be catching him. You're going to be boxing him. And when Kambosos close the gap, you're going to see Hitchins letting his hands go. Pop, 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 pop. Combination. So, I think this is going to be one of those fights where you're going to see kind of like the brawler versus the boxer. And the boxer is going to be, outboxing him. That's the way I see the fight playing out. That's why I said earlier that this could end up looking like Devin Haney versus Kambosos, where Devin clearly outboxed him twice and made it look easy. Not necessarily the case, because I wouldn't be surprised if Richardson Hitchins decide to stand there and bang with him and use a little bit less footwork than Devin. So the fight could be, more competitive. And I said earlier, that's the way that I see Kambosos is having a chance. If he can pull Richardson Hitchins into a slugfest and they just trading leather throughout the fight. If it's one of those, Kambosos has a shot. If Richardson Hitchins is gonna use his footwork, is gonna box him, he's gonna counterpunch, he's gonna hit and move, Kambosos is gonna be in for a long night. Long, long night. Tell you that right now. My what? My what? My peoples. I'm about to get the hell out of here. I want to give a shout out to everybody who came through. I appreciate y'all. Y'all know what it is, man. It's Friday. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your weekend. And yo, we're going to tune into these fights tomorrow. Y'all know, y'all boy Jay Smith. I'm going to be calling the action, the commentary like nobody else. Jay Stradamus is going to be in full effect for George Kambosos versus Richardson Hitchins. So y'all already know what it is. Yo, Gano Crush. Peace out, my G. I appreciate you coming through. Y'all already seen it, man. I'm Jay Smith. This is Box Center. Your favorite boxers. Favorite boxing show. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow, my peoples. George Kambosos versus Richardson Hitchins is going to be a very good fight. It's going to be competitive. Yeah, I did say that Richardson Hitchins might make it look easy at some point, might dominate him. But Kambosos is going there to fight. He got a chip on his shoulder. You know, is he a one-hit wonder? Can he win a title once again? So he's going in there trying to get that. He's trying to take that from Richardson Hitchins. Y'all already know it, my peoples. I'm getting the hell out of here. I'll see y'all tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to talk boxing once again. Yo, you seen it. Jay Smith in the building. Peace. Bam.